Welcome back. We are in week 8 of our Philippians series called Resilient Joy. Now, remember, every time we start these videos together, we go all the way back to the first week to help us remember what the book of Philippians is all about. So the first week, we really talked about, well, what is the book of Philippians, right? And we learned that it's a letter that Paul wrote from jail to the church of Philippi. The church of Philippi had been off to an awesome start, and then things kind of started not quite going their way. And so Paul was writing this letter to encourage them to keep going. Week 2, we talked about how Paul was just overflowing with gratitude for them. He was so thankful, and he just wanted to express that as an opening part of his letter. Then we got into week 3. And Paul reminded them that the reason that we don't stop is because the gospel is unstoppable, right? And we talked about how the gospel is just the good news of Jesus. And so we talked together that because the gospel is unstoppable, we got to week 4 where Paul continued by saying, so live a life worthy of the gospel, right? He's saying because we know the good news of Jesus, we get to live differently. We get to live differently because we know Jesus. So then that led us to week 5, where we talked about, well, how do we live differently, right? And so we talked about humility, or being others focused first, right? Thinking of others before we think of ourselves. Week 6 brought us where we talked about, well, it's so important that we let our light shine, right? That we are an example for others. And last week, we talked about, and a huge part of that for Paul was having some really good friends. And he had some partners in ministry and friends that he could rely on and that he could send to encourage the church of Philippi even when he couldn't go. So this week, we are in Philippians chapter 3, verses 1 through 11. And I hope that in your family time lessons that you've already read those verses together and that you've talked kind of about this theme that Paul is getting at of how important it is to know who Christ is or know who God is, right? And then to live with him. It's been his theme all along, right? How important it is that we are knowing who God is and we're continually learning more and more about him. And then that obviously just overflows and reflects in everything we do. So that led us then into going, well, if we know who Christ is, how do we witness to others? And witness is just a word that we use where we're saying we're telling others about him. So I brought a book along, and it's our friend Adam Raccoon again. I just love Adam Raccoon. But this one is all about witnessing, and I think it'll help us get a better understanding of what does it look like when we know who God is, when we are learning who he is. What does it look like for us then to be able to share that or witness to others so that we can continue knowing him and leading others to know him as well? So let's read Adam Raccoon and the Mighty Giant. All right. A mighty roar echoed through Master's Wood. It was King Aaron calling for Adam Raccoon. Soon the forest rustled behind him. You called, King Aaron? Adam wheezed as he stumbled out. Yes, Adam. Here, sit down and catch your breath. Adam heard his name and he came running really fast. Whew, he looked out of breath. This is all my kingdom, Adam, but not all know me as their king. I want you to go and tell them. Adam thought for a moment, then said, I will, King Aaron. You can count on me. King Aaron gave Adam a very important job to make sure he told other people. Good. Here's your badge. You are now my deputy. Whoopee! Adam shouted as he ran down the mountain. "Thank you, King Aaron." Later that day, as Adam was showing everybody his badge, the ground started to shake. I wonder what it is. Towering high above the treetops, a giant thundered through. Masters Woods, boom, boom. All the animals scattered. I'd scatter too if there was a big giant. Boom, boom, boom. The giant stomped off into the distance. "Gather round, everybody," King Aaron shouted. "Don't be afraid of the giant. We need someone to go and welcome him to Masters Wood and tell him that I am the king." Uh-oh, that means me, Adam thought. "Adam, will you go?" King Aaron asked. Adam was excited to get that badge, but now he's realizing there comes some responsibility with that badge, huh? I'd rather not. You see, I'm just a little guy and he's so big." And everyone else said the same thing, except for Freddy the Frog. "How about you, Freddy?" "I'm not afraid of a giant. I'll go," he boasted. Freddy the Frog thinks it's easy. The crowd cheered and the band played as Freddy marched off. Do you see Adam down here? He looks a little defeated, huh? But as soon as he was out of sight, he hid. "I'm not looking for a giant," he said. Meanwhile, Adam sat staring at his badge. So it looks like Freddy put on a really brave face, but did not feel so brave. And Adam is starting to think maybe he made the bad choice. Remembering King Aaron's words, "Not all know me as their king." "The giant needs to know," Adam said, and off he ran to find him. Adam remembered the importance of telling everybody that King Aaron is king. Through the darkening forest, Adam searched, but he could not see the giant. Then suddenly, swish! A giant hand grabbed him from behind. "Welcome to Masters Woods, Mr. Giant," Adam stuttered. "I came to tell you about our king." And the giant listened as Adam told him about the wise and loving King Aaron. Meanwhile, King Aaron had been looking for Adam when the ground started shaking again. Who do you think's coming? "Run! It's the giant!" the animals screamed. "No, wait, look!" King Aaron shouted. "Don't be frightened. He wants to meet King Aaron." "Welcome to Masters Woods," King Aaron said as they shook hands. There was a great party that night to welcome the giant. Everyone was there, even Freddy the Frog. The end. I love that story, and I think it reminds us how important it is for us to tell everybody that Jesus is king, right? But sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking, can feel a little scary to step out and to share with someone about Jesus. But we know from Paul that it is so important because the gospel is unstoppable. And so we get to have the joy of not only just knowing God for ourselves, but sharing him with others. So Kids Step friends, I am encouraging you with your families, talk about who are the people that you know in your life that don't know Jesus. And then spend some time praying over them, praying for opportunities for you and your family to be able to share the good news of Jesus with them. and be praying that they would come too to know Jesus, just like how you know Jesus. So friends, until next week, I will be right back here as we continue our Philippians series, and I pray that you guys have an awesome week. All right, we'll see you guys next Sunday.